Oh, I didn't see you there. Hello, friends. It's time for Sports Extra. The Hawks certainly busy this week with the draft and trading away one of their top players. We're breaking down the biggest moves, and we've also reached the midway point of the baseball season. Are things finally clicking for the Atlanta Braves? Plus, a wild finish. The ending to Saturday's Atlanta United game is something you have to see to believe. Happy Sunday, everybody. Sports Extra from here in Studio B. It starts right now. Yes, sir. Welcome into Sports Extra, everybody. I'm Reggie Chapman. We knew it was going to be a big week for the Hawks, but did we think it would be this big? Allow me to direct your attention to this. The Hawks kept the number one pick, drafting Zachary Richer. They later traded away A.J. Griffin to secure a second-round pick, and now there are numerous reports that the Hawks traded away Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans for a handful of picks and some players. Now the attention turns to the future and what Richer could bring to the A.
To be an impact player, that's the hope for all of our guys. With him specifically, we feel like he can do that. Like I mentioned before, the size and the shooting and the defensive versatility that he has. He has a great foundation for success. And playing as long as he had before this in a pro league, he has those pro habits as well. So always going to be some development for our guys. But for him, the floor that he has right now is really good.
Golly, we've got so much to talk about the Hawks today, man. I've got the best in the business alongside me and all of our friends here on the desk. John Michael, 680 The Fan in the building, as well as Tanitra Batiste from Locked On and ESPN Radio. Guys, we got to start with this. The number one overall pick, Zachary Richer. He was the guy they decided to pick. What was your thoughts on that decision?
It was kind of the one we saw all along, and you got to say, you know what? I wish this was a year that you had the number one pick a different time. I wish there was Victor Wembanyama. I wish there was Zion Williamson, Paulo Banchero. The names go on and on and on. Zachary Richer has a lot of the qualities that you look for in a guy that goes number one, but you're now talking about a 19-year-old kid that's going to walk into a situation where there's some pressure for him to alleviate pressure off of Trae Young, and I don't know at 19 that he's ready for it. Reggie, we were talking about this at 680. I'm not sure that he's a starter day one. And I don't know how many number one overall picks walk in and you go, he might come off the bench here for a little while.
Yeah, kind of rough. I mean, if you're the Hawks fans, you're thinking, we got the first pick. This guy should impact the game right away. Thankfully for Richer, he feels like he's not really feeling any of that pressure to come in and really dominate. He knows that he's going to come in, do his job, and kind of keep going forward. Tanitra, I guess what I'm wondering now is where do you kind of see him fitting in this rotation as this team tries to figure things out going forward?
Yeah, I think it's to be determined. Just like you said, John, he's a number one pick, so you would hope that you could get some instant results from him. But the reality is this team, this roster is really still to be determined. Now, granted, like you said, there are reports out there that Dejounte Murray is moving on from the Hawks to the Pelicans, and you're getting Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels. So you've got all these other pieces that are maybe making the decision for you. But here's the thing, too. These are only reports. As you know, with the NBA, there could be all sorts of other things that happen such that trade could be nixed. So I think it's just still some things that need to be determined that maybe are outside of Richer himself that may dictate how the Hawks utilize him.
Look, we're going in order here, so it's obviously been a very busy week. They did have a second-round pick. They didn't have one coming into the draft, but they decided to trade away A.J. Griffin. We'll talk about him in a second, but Nikola Jurisic was the pick. John, will he be part of this team, or are they going to send him to stash him away overseas?
I don't see why he wouldn't be part of the team. I mean, you're looking for guys right now that can shoot the basketball, and I think about Bogi Bogdanovic and Trae Young are really your true knockdown shooters. I know Vic Krejci, don't know if he's going to re-sign as of yet. DeAndre Hunter, still kind of a work in progress. I like this. When I watched him get selected, I said he's a bigger kid, he's got a nice stroke, and we've noticed people that come from Serbia normally come pro-ready and ready to play.
Yeah.
I think he makes the roster. Maybe he's 13, 14 on the bench, 12, somewhere like that, but it'll be a good spot for him.
Just want to have a little bit more, I guess, depth at the position, some people that can actually shoot, because like you said, once they got rid of Kevin Huerter a couple years ago, it felt like you didn't have Adi Baldi in this roster that could shoot.
Yeah.
A.J. Griffin could shoot, but it seemed like he never really got his shot to really get in the rotation, especially with Quinn Snyder.
I can't forget about Jerry Bird. He's here as well.
Jerry Bird. Obviously, A.J. Griffin's gone. They just traded him. Do you think that was the right decision, or should they have kept him here and see if he could have developed a little more?
Yeah, it would have been nice to see him develop, but the opportunity to develop really happens at the G League. It really happens in College Park. Unfortunately for A.J. Griffin, he got there to kind of reset, and his body wouldn't allow for it because he was injured towards the end of that season, never really got to make an impression there. So if you can't make an impression in College Park and make the case for the Hawks to keep you or even bring bring you back up. 9 times out of 10, that's not going to work out for you. So I think this is one of those situations where, unfortunately, Nate McMillan inserted him into the rotation for a hot second, but we know he didn't like to play young players. Quinn Snyder tried to insert him a little bit more, but I just think ultimately there was never an opportunity, A, for him to fit, and he never quite got back to that A.J. Griffin that we saw in the first half of his rookie season, so maybe he gets a fresh start in moving on.
Crazy thing is he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think he's been here for a little bit. You'd think he'd be older. 20 years old, and that kind of puts in perspective. Ricochet is just 19. Yeah. So, I mean, these guys have room to grow. I mean, do you think that he's going to be one of those guys, AJ, that we look down the line that maybe explodes, or do you think this was the right move?
I think it's the right move.
Yeah.
At this point, you have a log jam at that position anyway, especially drafted Ricochet. Yeah. So I don't think AJ Griffin's going to be somewhere 3 years from now. You go, oh no, we traded away Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think that's what the Clippers are thinking right about now.
Yeah.
I think the Hawks will be safe with this one.
I think so too. And then you look at the fact that there are still some other pieces that we haven't yet talked about. Sadiq Bey, for example, what's going to happen with him ultimately? So like you said, just really in that 2-3 space, and even the 4 to some degree, it seems like the Hawks have really been log jammed. So AJ Griffin is probably going to have a better opportunity somewhere other than Atlanta.
Look, this is the big conversation that everybody's been talking about this week, though, that happened on Friday. Adrian Wojnarowski, the first report. Dejounte Murray is going to be traded to the Pelicans for Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, 2 future first-round picks. I'll be honest. Initially, I thought the Hawks got absolutely fleeced by New Orleans and that this was a terrible trade. I've talked myself into it. John, where do you kind of land?
Kind of in between.
Great.
I understand the quality aspect behind recouping 2 first-round picks. The problem is the Pelicans are going to be a pretty good team, which means your first-round picks are going to be like 20 and beyond. And as we saw this year, to quote Arthur Blank, it's not a crapshoot, but it actually is a crapshoot when you get to number 20 and get on down. So I didn't like that part of it. Dyson Daniels, a young defender, which you really got to like putting him next to Trae Young if Trae's still here. And Larry Nance is going to be a rotation piece that maybe is in Onyeka Okongwu or Clint Capella replacement if those guys end up going on. I think it's an okay trade. I'm not blown away. I still don't think you're anywhere close to being a contender in the East, but you get out from under that Trae DeJounte marriage that clearly wasn't working.
You get Dyson Daniels back, who is a first-round pick. He was the number 8 overall pick when he got selected. So really, truly, they kind of got 3 first-round picks in general, but he is really a prospect. Do you think that he's somebody that can fit into this rotation? I mean, defensively, very good, but a chance to now come here in Atlanta and do it here.
Yeah, I think that it's not just about fitting into the rotation, but I think the question becomes, where are these Hawks trying to go? Like, to me, this still begs the question of, I'm not sure what the direction and the vision of. So if you get a guy like a Dyson Daniels, yes, you're excited to get another defender, and yes, even a Larry Nance Jr., because he might give you a little bit more mobility than a Clint Capella under center, but I think, or at center, but I think ultimately the question becomes, is this deal as currently constructed, does this bring you the players that are actually going to keep Trae Young here and give him an opportunity to do what he wants to do, which is win now, or are we really talking about low-key a little bit of a reset?
Well, look, you are a professional. That was a TV transition if I've ever heard, and we got to talk about Trae Young now. John, Trae Young obviously still here. They decide, we knew they were going to split this duo up. We didn't know which one they were going to get rid of. Dejounte was the choice. Trae is still here. Yeah. Was that the right decision, or should they have gone with Dejounte, and where do you kind of see it going from here?
If you believe the reports, Reggie, that Trae didn't really have a market, then you did the right thing. You got a couple of picks. Trae is a much better player than Dejounte Murray.
Thank you.
Let's not kid ourselves. You don't average 26 and 10 in this league on accident, and I think he's been vilified because the team hasn't been very good. To Tanitra's point, I still don't think you're very good, to be honest with you. There's 6 or 7 teams I can name in the Eastern Conference right now that are infinitely better than you, but guess what? It's day one of free agency, and there's a lot still to happen around here. I think if you're going to do a reset, you send Trae packing as well and really rebuild this thing, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think this is kind of one of those soft resets, Control-Alt-Delete, and you hope that the computer boots back up in the right way. You have to hope that Ricochet is pretty good. You have to hope that Trae comes back in locked and loaded, and maybe some of these defensive pieces around him could stick.
At the end of the day, you're right. You make a very good point. I mean, you have Trae, and you've got a bunch of pieces around him. You're not in a bad position to be the first overall pick. You've got enough pieces to really at least contend to try and get into the playoffs if you play well. They're not great, like you said, but they at least have a chance to go forward. All right, we got to talk about the Braves. The Braves are pretty good. Believe it or not, we're halfway through the baseball season. We're taking a look at how the Braves' year has gone so far. That's coming up next. All right, everybody, welcome back to Sports Extra. I'm Reggie Chapman alongside John Michaels and Tanitra Batiste. Time to talk some Braves. Are officially halfway through the season. The Braves 46-36. John, first question to you. What is your biggest takeaways from the first half of the season?
Can we get a healthy team for the love? I mean, my goodness, Ronald Acuna is out for the year. Michael Harris is missing in action. Sean Murphy missed about 35 games. It seems like every time they start to find a little thing going and they start to play some good baseball, somebody else gets hurt. Oh, I forgot Spencer Strider pitched all of one game this year, and he's been out. So for this team to still be in the playoff hunt with all the injuries, it's a testament to how great they were coming into the year. But it has been disappointing because they've never really been able to get any type of momentum. I know Joe Boo made his appearance a week ago.
Yeah.
They were 8-2 the first 10 with Joe Boo. We actually told Joe Boo to go take a break.
What?
After scoring 0 against the White Sox.
Okay, we'll talk
he needed
about that.
a nap. Maybe some zero FG energy is what he needs.
Yeah, that's not good. Not good.
Yeah.
Tanitra, when you think back on this first half of the season, what kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, I think that for me, thank goodness we're having this conversation, right? Because there were moments in time where we kept saying, okay, the Braves are going to return to form. They're going to get there. And then they didn't get there. And May was just an awful month. And then all of a sudden, June, they picked things up. And granted, they end the month 13-12, but I think the encouragement was the way that they got to 13-12. We saw the pitching rotation fight for their lives to keep this team in games. And then we saw some of the bats come alive, Austin Riley, Matt Olson. And I think those are the most encouraging things for me. But one big takeaway as well, to your point, John, is Alex Anthopoulos, you got some work to do.
Definitely have some work to do. I mean, one of the moves that he made going into the season was grabbing Jarred Kelenic, and I know I'm dramatic. I'm kind of a dramatic guy, but at the end of the day, I think he saved the season. I mean, he's been unbelievable at that leadoff spot. Michael Harris goes down, he goes up there. The Braves start winning some games. We've had some disappointing ones over the last couple of weeks, but John, I mean, how big was it that he's been this good, and how big is it that it's the biggest thing he's done to get this keep going?
It's gigantic. This is the guy at the beginning of the year. We were like, okay, if he can put up Eddie Rosario numbers, go 250, 15 homers, 60 RBIs, we've got somebody that's going to hit ninth. Then all of a sudden the injuries happen and you start having to reshuffle the deck when it comes to the lineup. I've said this on our show. He's your leadoff guy the rest of the year. Michael Harris, go back to hitting wherever. And I love Mike, and if he wants to borrow my hamstring, he's more than welcome. Everything else on my body's broke, but he can have my hammy. Kelnic's your leadoff hitter until Ronald Acuna is healthy next year. And then I'm figuring out, maybe do I keep him there and move Ronald down to the 3 spot? I know analytics will tell you not to, but Ronald's not going to be the same. He's not going to have the same knees, obviously, coming off a second ACL. Yeah. I might leave Kelenic as my leadoff hitter moving forward.
Okay, and I wouldn't even blame you for that. But at least you have that opportunity now. I mean, before it was like Ronald's got to be a leadoff spot because who else is going to really be there? I mean, you could throw a couple other guys there, but Kelenic being up there has seemed to really work, and we'll see how it goes the rest of the season. Now, mind you, over the weekend, Saturday, Kelenic actually led off the game with a home run against Paul Skeens. We'll get to Paul Skeens in that pitching matchup in a second, but Adam Duvall had the walk-off winner in the 10th inning. Teacher, how big is it for this Braves team to grind out a win in a situation like that at home?
I think, like you said, grind out a win is so important to come back home and really kind of get that homestand started in a positive way. And who knew it? Because like we've been talking about, Skeens is him. But you know who else is him? Max Fried is still him. Fried with the 6 innings, 1 earned run. He just keeps on chugging and chugging. He just keeps reminding us. This is like the 3rd time that we've said, oh, wait a minute. Maximum is the ace of this squad. So I think in addition to what we saw with the Braves grinding it out to get the win as far as the bats go, I think so much credit goes to Max Fried for once again, we kind of had him in the shadows when it was Michael Soroka. He was in the shadows behind Spencer Strider, and all of a sudden he shows us once again that he's that guy. He's truly the ace of your staff, and he shows up and shows out yet again in a critical moment.
I forgot to bring my blank check to hand it to Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've got to re-sign this man. I don't want to hear that 7 years from now he might not be good. Give him a check. He's the ace of your staff, and you got to keep Max Fried here.
Well, so Max Fried, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned, 3 walks, 4 Ks, and he was up against what I think is the best young player in baseball.
No bias at all.
No bias at all. I didn't go to LSU or anything. 6 innings, 6 earned, 6 hits, had that 1 earned run. Is he the most exciting young prospect in baseball, John?
Absolutely. You got to love to watch him. I mean, this kid goes about it the right way. He was great when he was in college, and there's sometimes guys don't live from college into the hype in the big leagues. Paul Skeens is now becoming must-watch every fifth day when he goes out there and throws the ball. That, again, is a testament to Max Fried that he was able to match him basically pitch for pitch, and Adam Duvall coming up with a game winner in the 10th that they desperately needed.
Definitely needed. Charlie Morton, meanwhile, also another player that he's been trying to keep himself kind of above water, but he did a very good thing this last weekend. He has become a player that has beat all 30 teams in baseball after winning this last weekend. Tanitra, when you think back on his career, I mean, what do you kind of think of?
Oh man, that Uncle Charlie is also kind of him, because every time we think that it's time to make him hang it up, right? That it's Charlie Morton has done as good as he's going to do, or he's been as good as he's going to get, like we saw at the beginning of the season. All of a sudden, he shows us that he's still got something left in the tank. And to your point, the thing that he's done where he's beaten every team, he's got to win against all 30 teams, that's been done by fewer than 30 pitchers in all of Major League Baseball throughout the course of the majors. So that's something that's really, really powerful. And once again, you're talking about a pitching rotation that seemed like it was going to be so strong in the beginning of the season, and all of a sudden it becomes this piecemeal, and you're looking at Reynaldo Lopez, you're looking at Chris Sale, and you're saying, oh my God, they're incredible. But here comes Charlie Morton, just steady Eddie.
Holding it down strong. A guy that's been incredible, Chris Sale, went 7 innings, 4 hits allowed, just 1 run, 11 Ks, and he earned a loss because the Braves got no offense against the White Sox. I know you were really upset about it. We were walking to set today. Your biggest breakdown from that?
The offense stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, call it what it is. I feel terrible for Chris Sale. If I was him, I'd walk in, I'd want a piece of everybody's game check from that one, because you can't put up 1 run against a team that was 40 games under 500. They made us retire Joe Boo for a little while. I'm not going to kid you. Joe Boo looked around and goes, I need to take a break from this. But Chris Sale's been a star. He's an absolute all-star. There's no question about it. I'd almost know if I'm the Braves, I'd make them start maybe that Sunday before the break and say, you can go enjoy the festivities, go get your bonus check, whatever it may be. I don't need to have you throwing meaningless innings. I need you pitching down the stretch when we're trying to make a big run.
10 wins for Chris Sale this year. That could have been 11, which could have tied him for the Major League lead, but, you know, whatever. A loss is a loss. By the way, we got some big games coming up this week. The Phillies coming to town. No Kyle Schwarber, no JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper on the bench as well. Really quickly from both of you, Denitra first. How big is this series for this Braves team who still wants to try and win the division?
Okay, no Schwarber, a win. No Realmuto, another win. No Harper, another win. So that's all I got to say. It's the biggest weekend of the year because you got none of them, so this is the weekend to take dubs and not L's.
Yeah, you got to, if you want to get in the division race, this is your chance. Head-to-head competition. You shaved off a couple of games during that 8-2 stretch, but you got to shave off some more. We need a sweep. Sweep the Phillies.
Sweep the Phillies, man. I mean, that would be incredible for this group. I mean, you just think about it. Brian Snicker last week was saying, we want to win the division. We're not trying to win the wild card. We want to win the division, but hey, there's a chance to do it. All right, let's talk some golf, right, don't we? Let's wrap up real quickly. Within the Motor City, the Rocket Mortgage Classic final round. Akshay Bhatia looking to send it to a playoff, but he 3-putts the final hole to give Cam Davis the win in the event. Terrible, man. That's Davis's 2nd win at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Up next on the tour, the John Deere Classic, where former Georgia Bulldog Sepp Straka is the reigning champ. All right, coming up, we're bringing back my favorite segment. It's called Reggie's Agenda. It's time to push an agenda surrounding the NBA draft and much more coming up next after the break. Welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody, and welcome to Reggie's Agenda. It's the street's favorite segment where it's my turn to spit some facts, and my guests get to tell me if I'm right or wrong. If I'm right, great. If I'm wrong, they don't get invited back on the show. So pick your decision correctly. Let's get right into it. Talking some Braves first. I know things have been a mess this year for the Braves side on the pitching side of things. It started with losing Spencer Strider for the year. It's gotten worse with all sorts of injuries, with players being rotated in and out of the rotation from AAA. And I still think they've got the 2nd best rotation in baseball. Chris Sale tied for 2nd in wins. Him and Max Fried really, really good. Reynaldo Lopez, sub-2 ERA. The only better staff is the Phillies. I think that could change this week. John?
I actually don't think you're crazy. I think what they've done, Reynaldo Lopez, a sub-170 ERA. Chris Sale, a Cy Young candidate. Max Fried, a Cy Young candidate. I think you get those 3 in the playoffs, look out.
Both those guys rank 5 and 6 in ERA.
Yeah, and if you can get Charlie Morton to just be a little bit of that Charlie Morton for the backside of the season, I think that you're right. This is the 2nd best pitching rotation in baseball.
Boom. All right. You guys might get invited back. We'll see how these next 2 go. Second agenda. I think the Hawks fans should boo Alex Sarr every time he comes to Atlanta. He's a guy that went number 2 overall to the Washington Wizards. I really like Zachary Richer as a prospect. I think they picked him, though, unfortunately, because he got bullied. The Hawks got bullied out of taking Alex Sarr because he decided he didn't want to work out for Atlanta. He's a former OTE product, goes 2 to the Wizards. It makes no sense to me. Tanitra, should we boo this guy every time he comes to town?
Now, first, in order to boo him every time he comes to town, you got to actually be in the seats. seats in the first quarter to be there to boo it. So let me just say, you guys, if they say tip is at 7:30, just go ahead and get there at 7:30. First of all, you wear all white everything, and every time he steps on the court and he tries to shoot, you boo him. He gets to the free throw line. You treat him like you treated Giannis back in the playoff run, and that's how you make him know that you don't mess with this city like that.
Got to quote wrestling when it comes to something like this. Alex Saar, you are SAWFT. Soft. We're going to boo your soft rear end every time you come here. You ain't good enough to be in the
Yeah,
end.
Not
that's right.
good enough. It's our beautiful city, Alex Saar. You should have come back home. Anyway, let's talk about
French.
Yeah, we'll let it slide, I guess. No, I'm not going to let it slide. Let's talk Bronny James. All right, how about this? The Lakers taking him in the second round. He got a lot of hate online as being picked just because of his dad, who is the great LeBron James. The kid guy had a heart attack going into his freshman season. He might have really been a first-round pick if he had just played another year. This last year, he played behind first-round pick and local Wheeler product Isaiah Collier. I think he's got the athletic tools. I think he's got the mental side of things. People complaining about nepotism can just go away.
100% they could go away. The reaction was so predictable on social media, and it was so disgusting. You guys like to hate on a 19-year-old kid because you don't like his dad, who, by the way, is a great family man, an entrepreneur, a billionaire, has never done anything wrong other than maybe use free agency to his advantage and go other places. Worry about your own lousy lives and stop hating on a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I'm thinking, listen, if LeBron James was my dad, trust and believe, I'm taking every opportunity to hang on the coattails. Now, don't get me wrong. I might do a little work or something here and there. And I think Bronny's going to be that guy. I think he's going to show you that he's hardworking. But imagine not just an opportunity for Bronny James, but let's face it, Bryce James is right around the corner, too. If I'm Bryce, I'm coming with you as well. Thanks, Dad.
2 years away. 2 years away. We'll see if he's still playing. All right, final block coming up next is our video of the week. All right, final block is our video of the week, and it's this incredible play. Jamal Tiare steals the ball from the goalkeeper and scores to win it for Atlanta United.
TRA is not like us. I mean, he was really paying attention. He was there in the moment. He caught the defender sleeping and slacking. And what I love about this as well is so much energy that was in the bin. So much of this was needed because we know that United has been struggling to get wins. So I think this is great for them. A shot in the arm for Atlanta United.
That keeper should be cut like today.
Oh, no.
If I'm his manager, you're
Look at
fired.
this.
That is so bad. How do you get caught slipping like that? That's terrible.
That's been a nightmare for me as a goalkeeper my entire life. That is just the worst
Don't you
possible
look around,
feeling.
peek, something?
Nope, nobody told him. That's not on him. I would have blamed somebody else, honestly. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching. More Sports Extra coming up next week.